My name is Balázs Tátrai, and I am a writer from Budapest, Hungary. And I hope you will forgive my Transylvanian accent. I am much more used to writing than speaking.
Hi everyone, my name is Lilla Bölecz and I'm a dark artist, dollmaker and book illustrator. I've always been obsessed with mythology and folklore, and it's something like a never-ending source of inspiration for me. And I'm very excited for this project, especially because this is the first time that I'm not only illustrating a book, but I get to make a lot of research for the text and even write a little, so I'm very happy to be here.
So we thought that we will tell you a bit about the book, then show you a short video, followed by a slideshow of the illustrations and a reading of our favorite folk tales from the book. So yeah, both Lilla and I are fascinated by folklore stories, and especially by illustrated books about, fairies, cryptids, vampires, and similar entities. We are always on the lookout for such books, yet there were only a few about what interests us the most, and that is illustrated works about the folklore of witches. I guess, what was it, 4 years ago, approximately, Lilla told me that we could make a book like this ourselves, since we are both graphic designers. And yeah, so we had no idea how much work would this involve, but so we had no excuse really to jump right in and start working on this project. And after years of researching, writing, illustrating, and frankly, a great deal of luck, we are finally able to share with you with what we have been working on. So the Book of Forgotten Witches, Dark and Twisted Folklore Stories from Around the World is a collection of folk tales about witches and some related beings. These folk tales offer a glimpse into the lives of witches, and each chapter ends with a fictional short story. These short stories allow for deeper reflection on contemporary themes of witchcraft, and also a way to explore the interesting connections between folklore, tarot, and alchemy. For example, we look at how consumerism demands our souls and what we can do to resist its dark charm. Or a witch trial of two women who want to start a family together, but in a town where they are not accepted. And the distant but always inspiring possibility of reconnecting with nature. Yeah. So I think that we can start the video we want to show you, a short one.
So I'm going to show some illustrations while Balázs is going to read some parts of the book. So these illustrations are not necessarily exact ethnographic depictions of these folklore characters, but more like artistic interpretations. I wanted to grab the essence of these stories and characters, and more like the personalities of these beings. And my aim was to add an extra layer to the text that can be freely interpreted as well. Because I really love when people add their own thoughts and impressions, and it feels like these different stories from people can fill a picture with more life. So let's get to the reading.
Okay. Prologue. I was beginning to think nobody would ever find me again among the Gothic ruins atop Raven Hill. Many years have passed since anyone has heard my call. People who stray into this place only see old stones and silent statues. They have no idea that centuries ago there was a witches' library here, the Corpus Corvorum. I had almost given up hope of receiving new visitors when you appeared in the moonlit night. I know, too, that you felt my presence before you even set foot on the path leading up Raven Hill. So, when you reached the ruins, I was sure you would find the secret entrance. You passed the dark rocks and headed straight toward the only remaining wall of my erstwhile library, to be greeted by the statues of Hecate, in her guises as a young girl and an old crone standing resolutely among the vines. Above them you saw a rose window, its stained glass miraculously intact. The masterfully crafted window depicted her as the goddess of the night, looking down at you, radiating the same power as always. For not even storms dare to harm her image. You lost yourself in her gaze until the carved inscription on the wall began to glow. Shine, fool, and tear away the veil that hides the word. Of course, you had no idea what this veil was, or why you were called a fool. You didn't know I was looking for people brave enough to face the illusions in their lives and to break through the barrier that blurs the world from their eyes. People like you. And nothing could prepare you better for this journey than the magical tarot cards in my library and the ancient books and manuscripts that have taught so many witches the well-guarded knowledge of the alchemists and the wisdom of folklore. Fortunately, the night decided you were worthy of finding the secret entrance. The full moon took on the color of the rose window and bathed your face in its light. The rays hid the wall, the vines withdrew behind the statues, and the power of Hecate revealed the arched door. For a moment you hesitated, seized with doubt. But your innate curiosity spurred you on, and you entered the invisible hall of the Corpus Corvorum. Chapter 1. Curse Bringers. Come closer, let me see you. Yes, you might be able to understand what others could not even hear. Well, what are you standing there for? Now you found me. Come inside, but remember, now you're in the library of the Keeper, the custodian of the vast knowledge of the Corpus Corvorum, not among the peaceful ruins of Raven Hill. Go ahead, look at the treasures piled up on these bookshelves under the arches. Most books and manuscripts, we often call them codices, are about witches whom very few people are familiar with nowadays, so they are close to being forgotten forever. Let me light a few more candles to make it easier to read. Their violet-colored flames cast light the spiders like. Sit yourself down. That moth-eaten old armchair is much more comfortable than it looks. Now, let's see. Yes, here it is. The oldest codex in the Corpus Corvorum, written by my predecessors. The only additions I've made are a few entries about more recent witches. The mysteries of the tarot and the knowledge of the alchemists were included by my master, and we will explore their surprising connections. We will see how a witch's curse can set us on the path of knowing our true selves, just as the spell of the magician does in the tarot. We will discover what witches who see into the future know about the wheel of fortune and our destiny. The chapters of the Codex will also give us a glimpse into the great work of alchemy and show how the tales of witches can help us on our own alchemical journey through calcination, dissolution, and separation to the ultimate goal, the creation of spiritual gold. Let us start at the beginning with a chapter on curse bringers. Yes, the ones like Baba Yaga. But have you heard of the others too? Of Grilla from Iceland? Of Shalmai Skampir? Of the Kudiani of Georgia? Or the nightmare demons that are feared all over the world? No? Then listen carefully while I tell you about them. But beware, because they are sinister and powerful, and the darkness of the night will tighten its grip and only release you when you have heard my last tale. Toad witches. Type? Witch. Area? Wherever toads are found. Powers? Evil eye? Curses. We know of witches from countries in Africa to the UK who gained their powers from the bones of toads and similar creatures. They use the remains in powdered form or as a harmful talisman to curse anyone who confronts them or has simply turned up in the wrong place at the wrong time. They can also give you the evil eye. You can try to protect yourself with amulets, but these are often not strong enough to ward off the powerful toad witch familiar with dark magic.
The Kudiani from Georgian folklore travel at night on the back of a black cat or a wolf to collect people's hearts.
Szép asszony. Type? Demon. Area? Carpathian Basin, Hungarian and Székely peoples. Powers: seduction, harming livestock, flying, invisibility. You should take care to avoid crossroads, ditches, and dunghills at midnight, as well as the eaves of buildings at noon on St. George's Day, or grass trodden down in a circle at Pentecost. These are the places where enchanting szépasszonys, with their long hair and white clothes, dance and sing, cursing or striking down with illness anyone who disturbs their feast, even unintentionally. Sometimes they saddle and ride the intruder or make them dance until they die, and, if their victim is a musician, they take them flying from one tree to another, making them play music. They do not simply fly, but walk in the air. At other times, they fly by riding bed sheets, but they may also appear in the guise of a swan, a wild goose, or even a whirlwind. Shapeshifters. Thieves of Kaltenbrunn. Type? Oh, sorry, I want to just read you a little bit of context for why we included werewolves in a book about witches. So we have included some related entities in the book, child-stealing demons who can be seen as precursors to the figure the malevolent witch, deities such as Hecate, the goddess of witchcraft, and mythological figures like Lilith, who is a symbol of independence and liberation from oppression for women. Witches also have a connection with vampires. There are many folk beliefs about dead witches coming back to life, hungry for flesh and thirsty for blood. In continental Europe, lycanthropy was so strongly associated with witchcraft that being a werewolf was a common accusation in witch trials. Teeth of Kaltenbrunn. Type, werewolf. Area, Swedish Livonia, today's Latvia and Lithuania. Trial, 1691. We usually associate the word werewolf with people like serial killer Peter Stump, who turned into a monstrous beast with the help of a girdle he received from the devil and devoured his own son. Many think that werewolves are witches who practice black magic, but there are some who are respected heroes, such as Czeslaw the sorcerer, ruler of Polotsk, or old thieves of Kaltenbrunn, who fought against evil powers. The Livonian werewolf Tis was over 80 years old when he was exiled from Kaltenbrunn for heresy. At his trial, he confessed that at Pentecost, Midsummer Night, and on St. Lucy's Day on the 13th of December, he and his companions had turned into wolves, crossed the sea, and descended into hell to fight the devil and his witches, who had robbed the people of their crops. These evil witches had fought with broomsticks, and the werewolves had used iron poles. When they won, the werewolves scattered the cereal they recovered over the fields of the peasants and noblemen. Tis said that if he breathed into a jug 3 times and then proposed a toast, he could pass on his ability to someone else. But he had not yet found anyone worthy of this. Was there ever anyone remaining in Kaltenbrunn who could continue the fight, or was old Tis the last one able to protect the crops from evil witchcraft?
The Finfolk live under the sea close to the Orkney Islands and need to marry humans to keep their beauty and happiness. The Green Rose is a short story about Rosa, the talented young shapeshifter witch, who finds herself in a moral dilemma between helping others and becoming a selfish monster. Anna is the queen of the Kashali nymphs in the folklore of the Roma people, who was forced to marry a demon king.
Survivors. Angel in Tubs. Type, witch. Area, Saratoga Springs, New York. Born circa 1761. Angel in Tubs was born in England in the village of Watford in Hertfordshire. She was only 15 years old when she became engaged to a British soldier and sailed with him to America. After losing a battle, her fiancé abandoned her in the wilderness near Saratoga Springs, where she knew nobody. Despite being all alone in a foreign country, she found the strength to survive. She built a hut and learned how to trap animals to provide for herself. She also mastered witchcraft and was said to be able to converse with spirits during the most violent thunderstorms by standing in the middle of whirlwinds. Soon she became known as the Witch of Saratoga, who made a living telling the fortune of those who sought her wisdom.
Nightfall is a dystopian short story about Breeze and Heather, a same-sex couple whose only sin was that they wanted a child. Lamia is the queen of ancient Libya, admired for her beauty, until she is tragically turned into a snake-bodied monster. The Gorobonciás is a devilish wanderer who can summon dragons or storms from his magic book and often punishes greedy people.
Lohe. Type, witch. Area, Finland, Karelia. Powers, giving birth to miraculous and horrible creatures, healing, creating powerful spells, affecting celestial bodies. Lohe, this one is written by Lilla. Lohe is fed up with being seen as a sidekick in someone else's story. It's always about heroic Väinämöinen or valiant Ilmarinen, and Lohe is presented as a horrible, evil one. She hasn't been treated well. Didn't one of her daughters die because of Ilmarinen? Didn't he kidnap the other one and turn her into a seagull just because she resisted being forced into marriage? It is Lohe who saves Väinämöinen's life when he is wounded and dejected on his little boat and cannot get home without Lohe's sleigh. And he calls himself a shaman. All she wants in turn is the sampo, the mysterious device that brings wealth and good fortune. But eventually, Ilmarinen and Väinämöinen resent her having it and enviously steal it back, and she loses everything. But she will not put up with this. She will fight, even if that makes the whole world sink into the sea. Yuki Onna. Type: UK. Area: Japan. Powers: turning into fog or snow. Yuki Onna, the snow woman, holds her baby tight and keeps trudging through the blizzard. Her kimono freezes rigid and her black hair turns into white with the snow. She walks on until she comes across a lone traveler. When she catches up with him, she asks him to take the baby for a short time to warm it up with the heat of his body, and stop it crying. The traveler obliges, and Yuki Onna waits patiently until the infant has sucked out all the heat and the traveler's frozen body is covered with snow.
Quash is the evil sorcerer of Russian fairy tales. He even manages to trick death with hiding his soul. Rogemume is a field spirit who lives between the roots of rye and other crops at night and captures children during the day.
Benandanti. Type: Spirit Walker. Area: Northeastern Italy. Powers: leaving the body, fighting malevolent witches in spirito. Historically, Benandanti or good walkers were witches in the eyes of the church, but the inhabitants of Friuli province regarded them as healers who protected the harvest. We know from Inquisition investigations that 4 times a year, during the Nights of Amber Days, they entered a cataleptic state and left their bodies in the form of spirits. They rode cats, mice, or hares to otherworldly fields where they fought the Malandanti, the evil witches. The Malandanti fought with sticks of sorghum, which they also used as brooms, while the Benandanti used bundles of fennel. If the Benandanti won, they protected the harvest. If they lost, the Malandanti ruined the vat and the vine. According to local lore, if a baby was born in a coal, it was a sure sign that they would be able to leave their body in a spirit form. During their initiation, in their sleep, the sound of drums called them after the other Benandanti, though many were reluctant to go because of the dangers. A Benandanti's seemingly lifeless body was not allowed to be turned over during their otherworldly trip. Otherwise, they could not return and were doomed to wander as a stray soul until the end of time. Despite all the good deeds the Benandanti carried out, the Inquisition did not differentiate between good and evil witches. Many of them were persecuted for heresy. However, the Benandanti were sworn to secrecy, and they never revealed who their companions, or even their enemies, the Malandanti, were.
Feng was the first female alchemist in China, and legend says she could turn mercury into silver. Bagolyasszonyka or the old woman of Hungarian folklore, is a mysterious spirit creature who had to leave her family and all her possessions behind. According to Roma folklore, if pumpkins and melons are left outside during the night of a full moon, they gain sentence and turn into vampires.
The Fisherwife of Palermo. Type: witch. Area: Sicily. Trial: 1588. The Fisherwife of Palermo was an Italian woman put on trial for witchcraft in 1588, whose name was lost to history. This is a fictional retelling of her story, based on available sources. The light breeze from the sea mingled with the fragrant air of the olive grove as the inquisitors arrived at the chapel in Palermo. The one in the red robe watched with disgust as his apprentice bit into a slice of prickly pear. He was suspicious of this sweet fruit from the New World that the people of this island found so delicious. The devil's fig, he thought, as they entered the chapel. The wife of a fisherman who was accused of attending a witch's Sabbath was already in the interrogation chamber. The Red Inquisitor asked the woman about the elves and fairies she claimed to see. The woman explained that it had all started when she was a young girl and she had traveled with a group of women riding on the back of goats to a vast field called Benevento. When they arrived, they saw a vermilion-colored boy and a beautiful woman they called the king and queen of the elves. They told her that she had sweet blood and taught her how to cure the sick. The Red Inquisitor accused her of worshipping them as gods, and she replied that she had knelt before them, then eaten and drank with some handsome men. He then inferred that she had had intercourse with them and had known that this was a sin. Instead of denying this allegation, she explained that she had felt happy and couldn't wait to go back to them when she woke up in her bed. The inquisitors could hardly believe her story, yet she insisted that it had all been a dream, a sweet dream, and nothing more. Hate blood. Type: restless spirit. Area: Appleton, Wisconsin. Lived from 1851 to 1854. Kate, or Kitty as she was known, was the daughter of Appleton's earliest settlers and a beloved member of her community who died in her 20s from tuberculosis. Her husband laid her to rest at the most peaceful place in the cemetery, far from the other graves. Yet, after her husband's death, a legend was born based on nothing more than the name on her tombstone, Kate Blood. It claims that she murdered her family with an axe, and if one visits her grave at midnight, one can see an apparition and blood oozing from her tombstone. Soon, people started to believe this legend and call her a witch. But there are still some who know that honoring the memory of the dead is more important than a sensational story.
The Dragon Sister is a fantasy fiction about the sinister events before Elizabeth Báthory's birth. This Hungarian countess was a vampire and witch, bathing in the blood of virgins, seeking eternal youth, at least according to her enemies. Ginny Greenteeth, Nellie Longarms, and Peg Powler are water hags, attacking people from the bottoms of lakes and rivers, or from the tops of the trees.
And from the last chapter, titled Fate Turners. Werewolves. Type: witch, shaman. Area: Scandinavia, Central Europe. Powers, telling the future, sorcery. Women who held magic powers were not always outcasts from society. In Viking communities, they held important and much respected positions, not only in spiritual roles, such as seers or shamans, but also as ambassadors, army leaders, and counselors. These witches were familiar with ancient mysteries and used wands and magic sounds in a rite called seidir, sometimes aided by hallucinogens and aphrodisiacs. This allowed them to move between this world and the other world, so that they could convey prophecies or influence events. Almost all werewolves were women, and often they traveled from village to village to help people. Mother Shipton. Type: soothsayer. Area: England, North Yorkshire. Lived circa 1488 to 1561. Ursula Sootale, later called Mother Shipton, was the daughter of a 15-year-old orphan. She was born in a cave near Knaresborough in North Yorkshire, England. The townspeople believed her mother had been impregnated by the devil himself because she was hunchbacked and had bulging eyes, which made people avoid her all her life. As a child, she was once mocked by a group of men because of her looks. Ursula appeared to ignore them, but a while later, the ruff of one of the men turned into a toilet seat, and another's hat changed into a chamber pot. After this, nobody dared mock her. At a young age, she learned the secrets of herbs and made potions from them, increasingly gaining respect. However, when she married the local carpenter, she was suspected of having seduced him with a magic potion, because the locals did not believe that anyone would marry a woman who looked like she did. When her husband died 2 years later, rumors circulated that she had poisoned him, and she was ostracized from the village. Ursula returned to her cave, but soon people started visiting her again. This is when her power of soothsaying came to light. She foretold that Henry VIII would create the Church of England, and some even say she foresaw the Great Fire of London in 1666. She became such a legendary figure that even a moth was named after her, because it has a hag-like marking on its fins. Hecate. Type: goddess. Area: Hellas and Anatolia. Powers: guidance, power over the ghosts of the night. Hecate is the goddess of magic, witchcraft, and boundaries in Greek mythology, whose worship probably took over from an earlier goddess in Anatolia. Her statues were placed at crossroads and gates, where various offerings were left to ask for her protection and guidance. She is also depicted as a triple goddess. She holds a torch in one hand, a key in the other, and a dagger or serpent in the third. The torch shows the right way. The torch shows the right way even in the darkest night when all hope seems to be lost. The key might open the gates of Tartarus. As for the serpent and the dagger, well, along with the dogs who accompany her, they leave no doubt about her unquestionable power over heaven, earth, and sea. She is known by many names: Adonaiah, Tonia, Nissa, Deira, and Brimo. In my last story, you can find out why she was called merciful and wrathful at the same time. And this last sentence refers to the last short story in the book featuring Hecate. And I just wanted to again mention that we collected or selected short stories because we wanted to share with you as many as we can. But we have longer stories as well in the book. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely. But I think that ever since the first, civilizations arose, witchcraft, the occult, or we could simply say that magical practices um, are constantly forced to be a kind of an undercurrent, by institutionalized religion and science. And I also must know that I'm not talking about faith, but you know, religion and not individual scientists or something like that, but rationalism as the dominant view of the world. So yeah, there is a resurgence in magical practices, but that has been going on, I think, for a long, long time. We have a deep or a fundamental need, I think, for magic. I like to, separate a very simplistic view, I know, so bear with me, but there is science, religion, and magic. And science and religion is kind of the younger sisters of magic. And magic I use, just like science and religion, as an umbrella term, of course, including witchcraft. And we have a, a thirst for that because I think we were deprived of magic in the past centuries. Let's say 300 or so.
Well, yes, they are digital, and my process is usually starting on a paper with pencil when I draw some sketches, and then I finish them on the computer. And but there's also another process behind this. It's like I think it's kind of a combination of logic and intuition, because I usually do a lot of research before starting such a work, and it's like the logic part. But very often when I actually start drawing, I have these ideas seemingly coming from nowhere about what to include in a picture. And the interesting part is that they later turn out that there was a reason for this. Like, for example, in the book, I had an idea that I should draw a crane in one of the illustrations. And later it turned out that it was really connected to the story. So I really love this process when it's not only the logic that creates the illustration. Yes, it's also part of my process that I like to. I think in these dark stories and characters, there's always kind of a, or it can be interpreted as funny, and I'm always trying to put a piece of this fun into the illustrations.
Can I answer, Lilla?
I think yes.
Okay. So witchcraft is very much alive today. So there are many, 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 and more and more, practitioners. There are Discord servers where you can even talk to some practitioners if you would like, and other places as well. So it's really wonderful to see how much people work, how much work has been done in the past years by new practitioners, and it's really interesting, I think. Yeah. So this is really a hard question because we have more than 80, witches and some related beings in the book, so it's really hard to choose. But maybe for me it is Elizabeth Bathory, the Hungarian countess, because and you know what? It's strange, but I would like to meet her as a ghost, and together with her confront the historians of the 18th century and ask them why they depicted her as such a vile, bloodthirsty woman, which he wasn't, as some studies showed in the recent past. So yeah, it would be a really interesting conversation.
It's really hard for me also to choose because there are so many amazing characters. But at the moment, I think I choose the Garabonciás from Hungarian folklore, because he had kind of an effect on social justice with magic, and I'm very bothered by these these things in society that we don't have an effect on.
If I can just make a connection back to, werewolves, vampires, and there are so many connections to witchcraft, and one of them is that uh, um, the majority of persecuted people were women. That's a fact. But there were some, even in Salem, who were men, and in other places who were children as well. And this is, by the way, not just a problem of the past, but the present as well. So we have, for example, the Bokshis from Nepal, and there were many stories, recent stories from the past years, and yeah, it's very interesting to see how current, or how to say, this persecution is, and how it affects men as well, only for a lesser extent, of course. Yes. So this was a very interesting thing for me to find the connection between folklore, witchcraft, and folklore, tarot, and alchemy, and so a lot of work beside the research into folklore went into how can we make this connection um, uh, um, at, as clear as possible. Yeah, sorry. And yeah, it won't ever be as clear as reading um, a mathematical equation. Of course, these are all quite esoteric thoughts, things, yeah, something that you have to, I think, you have to allow yourself to and the book to reveal it to you. If you are in a place, then some aspects will be apparent, and maybe others will be apparent at a later reading. So yeah, but to answer the question, yeah, I've tried to make it as clear as possible, the connection between tarot, alchemy, and folklore. The book is uh, designed, or designed to each chapter represent a type of witch, like curse bringers, shapeshifters, etc. This is uh, uh, mm, yeah, this helps with the folklore, So what kind of folk tales will we select for each chapter? And then when it comes to tarot, I only work in this book, at least with the major arcana, and only the 10 numbered pages. So the fool, who has no number, is basically the reader who goes on a journey. And the last card, the word, it will be, if we ever do, a second book, the goal. So the 22 cards, we have 20 cards, excluding the word and the fool. These 20 cards are halved, and this book, in this book, we talk about each chapter is connected to the first 10 major arcana. And I made a modification of George Ripley's alchemical, the great work of alchemy. It's the compound of alchemy. It's his work, his book. He has 12 steps, which I made it to work in 10. And but there is logic to it, and then associated with the chapters as well. So the alchemical great work, the 10 steps are also part of the concept, and it was really interesting to see how well these work together. So the Curse-Bringers chapter, which is the first one, with the Magician card and the, I believe, Fascination. Yes, the first step of the great work of alchemy, which is basically involves fire. And if we think about, Baba Yaga as similar to the magician, you would either get cursed or harmed, or Baba Yaga can also be a guide to you and guide you to start on a path, just like the magician. And the first step of the alchemical journey is something similar to that. Sorry to be so long. We are actually thinking about that, and maybe later on we can do something like that. Yeah. Yes. There's no question about that. As long as we, myself included, don't strive to constantly, broaden our perspectives, like accepting that there is a place for both religion, science, and magic in our lives. I think we will fall into the trap that only one of these worldviews can be accepted. And this leads directly to, discrimination and persecution. So I think it is very important to talk about witchcraft and, broader sense, magic. Yeah. I don't know if this answers your question or not. Lilla, should I?
Sure.
Okay. Well, if we ignore our shadow, it will simply consume us. So we cannot ignore, even as a society, these figures. And folklore, the centuries distilled these stories, and of course we retell it in our words, but these are very deep and meaningful stories, and that's why we made it the focal point of the book. And these stories, and often these stories depict these type of characters. For example, what mentioned Baba Yaga. So we should also remember that, like I said before, Baba Yaga can be viewed as a curse bringer or someone who is a really dark and grotesque and gruesome character, but she can also be a wise guide. And these stories often shed a little bit of light to the duality of these figures. Yeah.
Well, it's actually very hard because it really I have to do a lot of research for that, like either online or I have these books about historical clothing, which is another topic that I really love and I'm really interested in. But there are certain things that are really hard to find, like for example, once I had to draw a person from ancient times who was writing something like a letter, and so I had to search for, did they have a table? Did they, if they had a table, then did they write next to a table, or did they have another method of writing? And what did they wear? Did they have pencil or what kind of pen? So it's really, you have to search for every detail, and even things that you wouldn't even think about. And I think it's very hard to find all these things, actually. But I love it, and I always get lost in researching.
So much.
Thank you very much.